Welcome to Sew Anastasia, and today we're going to make a reversible high-waisted bathing suit bottom. If you'd like to sew along with me, the pattern's available for sale on my website. This is an original Anastasia Chatzka bathing suit bottom. We're gonna go over what you need for this project. So you're gonna need 2 different spandexes. I chose this neon orange and this amazing cat print spandex, which I'm so excited to make into a bathing suit, finally, because I think I bought it like 2 years ago. Oh my God. And you're also gonna need a matching thread and your rotary cutter. You're also going to need your pattern, and if you're sewing along with me, the pattern's gonna be 3 pieces. You can also just use one color of spandex and use the same on the inside and on the outside, but I'm making it reversible, so it's different on the inside and the outside. The first thing you wanna do is cut out your fabric, and I'm gonna cut out the cat. When cutting out spandex, it's really important to follow your grain line, because if it's off grain, it's not gonna stretch properly across your body, and then you're gonna be restrained in your bathing suit. It's gonna be really uncomfortable. So make sure that you're following your grain lines. So grain line is parallel with your selvage. Okay, so I have my pattern on the fabric, and I want to make sure that my grain line on the pattern is parallel with the selvage of the fabric, which is the edge of the fabric that runs lengthwise on your fabric. So what we're going to do is take a ruler, and we're gonna measure the top of our grain line to the very edge of the fabric. I'm getting 9 1/4, and I want to go to the other end of my grain line and measure and see what that measurement is. And I'm at 9, so that means I need to back up my pattern on the bottom a little bit, so that way it's going to be even. So now we moved it, so let's go back to the top again and see. So now we're at 9 1/8, and now we're at 9 1/8, so that's perfect. So now our grain line on the pattern is parallel with the edge of our fabric, which is our selvage. So now we can cut it out and be super stretchy across the body. Grab your rotary cutter and let's go ahead and cut out our first piece. Look at all those cute little kitten faces. I'm gonna have kittens all over my booty. The rotary cutter is so nice for cutting spandex. You get such a nice clean line. There we go. So our first piece is cut out. Next we're gonna cut out the front of the bathing suit and the crotch piece. So make sure your grain lines are good and go ahead and cut these out. I just finished cutting out all 3 pieces. Yours should look something like this. And next we're gonna go ahead and cut it out of your second fabric. I'm using the orange fabric, so I'm using the exact same pattern, and I'm gonna cut out a second set. So I have a double set cut out of all 3 pieces. So you should have 6 pieces total cut out. Now let's go over to the sewing machine and start sewing. So grab your matching thread, let's go. Today I'm going to be sewing on the Husqvarna Viking Designer Epic sewing machine. If you don't have this machine, totally okay. You're going to want to select a zigzag stitch on your sewing machine. Or if your sewing machine has a stretch stitch, you can also use that. I call it the lightning bolt stitch. It's a variation of a straight stitch. Now I'm going to show you how to select the stitch I'm going to use on the Designer Epic. The first thing I'm going to do is select the type of fabric I'm using. I'm using a stretch light. So once I select that, I need to select what I'm doing. I'm creating a seam, so I'm going to select seam. Now this machine automatically sets up the stretch stitch, or also what I was calling the lightning bolt stitch, to the left. I want to put it in the center, so I'm going to hit this blue zigzag, and I'm going to select stitch number 6. So now my lightning bolt stitch is in the very center of the foot. I've also put on the Teflon foot, so that way when I'm sewing, it's going to be super smooth. The first step is going to be taking the back of the bathing suit and the crotch piece and sewing them together at this curve. So we're going to want to place them right sides together, and our seam allowance is going to be 3/8 of an inch. So because this is a curve, also remember that this point is going to have to hang off 3/8 of an inch when you start. Notice how the stitch is creating almost a little lightning bolt. That's why I call it the lightning bolt stitch. So it's gonna allow your fabric to stretch. If you were using a regular straight stitch and you stretched it, it would pop. And now when you get to the end, it's also gonna need to hang off 3/8 of an inch, so that way when it flips back, it lines up. And now you can see how nice that lines up because we let the 3/8 of an inch hang off. So both ends line up pretty well. This one's off a little bit, but that's okay. Now we're gonna sew these two straight edges together. So flip it right sides together, and we're gonna go ahead and sew right across 3/8 of an inch. And now we have the front of the crotch sewn together. Now we're going to sew together the side seams. So right sides together, go ahead and line up your side seams. Now notice this little angle I have down here. When you're sewing, you're gonna end up sewing right to the end of it, so that way when it flips back, it's nice and smooth. So notice this corner here, I went straight to the point when I sewed, and when I flip it back, this is a nice smooth line. Now we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. Now your bathing suit outside should be fully sewn together. It should look something like this. Next we're gonna go ahead and sew together the lining pieces. But we have to make sure to leave an opening in the side seam so that way we can turn it right side out when we're done. Now grab your second bathing suit set, and we're gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing. So sew the crotch pieces together, sew the side seams together, but you have to leave an opening on one of the side seams. It doesn't matter which one, but you're gonna leave about a 2-inch opening on the side seam. And this is gonna be important later for when we're sewing together the leg holes and the top waist. This is gonna be the side where I leave the opening in the middle. So I'm going to sew up about 1/3 of the way, and then I'm gonna leave an opening, and then I'm gonna continue sewing up. I'm gonna make sure I backstitch, and now I'm gonna pull my fabric out, and I'm gonna reposition it. So I'm going to leave that gap, and now I'm gonna start again. And now you can see how I have an opening here. There's a spot that's missing stitches. Now you should have 2 complete sets. I'm using the cats for the outside and the orange for the inside. And when I'm not feeling so catty, I'll flip it and have orange on the outside and cats on the inside. Now we're gonna put right sides together. So let's flip the orange one so that way the right side is on the inside. And I'm going to slip this one into the other one. And so now our right sides are together. That should look something like that. And the first thing we're gonna do is go ahead and sew around the leg hole. Make sure your seams are flat open so it's not bulky where your seams are. Okay, so now your leg opening should be completely sewn up on one side. Now here's where it's going to get tricky. You're going to need to reverse it so that your right sides, or one of your right sides is out. So put it as if you were going to wear it. So you can see how one leg opening is done. And now what I want you to do is go into this hole that we made. And I want you to take two of the seams and face them towards each other as if they were going to be sewn together. So right sides together. And I want you to grab that seam allowance in there and pull it out through the hole. Okay. So now that you have these two right sides lined up, and that's how you grabbed it from the inside, I want you to go ahead and sew around in the circle. Now it's not gonna look like a flat circle. As you keep sewing, you're gonna have to keep rotating it and moving it. Promise, it's gonna work. So now see how it's all kind of tucked in here? Just keep pulling it out and lining up your seams. So make sure those seams are lined up. Now when you get into the crotch, it's gonna be kind of tricky. So see how it's all bunched up here? Totally normal. You just need to make sure that you're not sewing that down in the seam over here and that it's pulled out of the way. It's okay to stop every once in a while, line it up. Okay, so now we're gonna pull it. We're almost at the end. So now we're back where we started. Make sure you back stitch. And now here's where it all starts to make sense. So you've got this bunch here. Doesn't look like a bathing suit, I know. But go ahead and take it and pull and put the right side on the outside and make sure your lining fabric is on the inside. And now we have two finished leg openings. So now I want you to turn it so that the lining is on the outside. So again, both your leg holes should be completely finished. So now we need to finish the top of the bathing suit here, which is raw. So now what I want you to do is go in through this little hole again, come up to the top, and take these raw edges and fold them into each other. And I want you to go ahead and grab that seam allowance there. So grab it. And the tricky part is you need to pull this out of the hole, otherwise it will not work. So just don't let go, keep holding. Okay, so again, you're sewing in this circle. So we need to line up these seams and go ahead and just keep sewing around until you get to the other side that you just sewed. And just keep pulling your fabric and making sure that your edges are lined up. Again, 3/8 inch of a seam allowance. Make sure you back stitch. And now we are practically done. So now what you want to do is go ahead and find that little hole on the side and turn it right side out. And now, check that out. The top of the waist is fully sewn together in the circle. Now we want to close up that little hole. So grab your hand sewing needle and thread and stitch it up. And it should look something like this. And now all you need to do is turn it right side out, and then I want you to iron your seams. So we want the seams to lay nice. So go ahead, roll the seam so that your seam is at the very top, and let's iron it. Well, we are finished with our high-waisted reversible bathing suit. So cool. I'm ready to go to the beach. Thanks so much for watching Sew Anastasia today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And as always, check out my Instagram, Sew Anastasia and Anastasia Chatzka. Links are also down below. And if you're in Chicago, make sure you take a sewing class with me or stop by my boutique and try on my latest collections. Hey guys, check out the new high-waisted bathing suit. So cool. Tag your photos, so Anastasia, so I can see your high-waisted bathing suits. Have fun.